Word on the street. FisMaz show. What's the word on the street? Like who got the beats that be killing the game? Who's up on the screen? Who playing who? What's the score on the sheet? Fiso the Prince got him taking the seat. Got the legends giving us the 411. Fiso must from the 031. No hating sports and entertainment when we got it on and we the only ones. And after all that action, never how we dripping high fashion. Drippy on some rich Mississippi stylists and soak up with passion. If it's giving us less, then we never settle. Make sure you pull up and bring all your medals. Sit back and relax, let's go. It's FisMaz bringing you the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show.
Hi, this is Sibonelo Makanya from the Multiply Titans, and you are locked into the only show that matters, the FisMaz show.
Hello all, I've been really looking forward to getting stuck into, I guess, a very different kind of show, but a show that nonetheless has me excited, and I hope that all of you will enjoy this particular journey. We're throwing it way back, well, not way back, because, then I'd be saying these guys are old. Lots of youngsters I'm going to be chatting to. But yeah, we're going to have fun. We're going to, I guess, find out about certain moments in our South African cricketing history, certain moments in these players' careers that I feel were not only iconic, but also were important lessons in their particular careers, and lessons that I know a lot of young people that will watch will take from it. And no doubt, even the older fans who were probably watching at that time will get an idea of, I guess, the thought process around those particular moments. Now, I don't want to hold him too long. I know he's quite a busy man. He's playing hockey these days as well. Well, I think let me introduce him. His name is Robin Peterson. He's a former South African cricket player. I'm sure all of you who follow this amazing game will know him very well. Robbie, I'm loving the hair. I'm loving the hair. I'm loving the beard. I'm loving the vibes, brother.
I'm just trying to match up to you, eh?
Brother, you are the original king of flair, so I don't know who's copying who.
No, that was you listening to the wrong people then. I'm the king of boring.
No, I can't believe that my hero is not what I thought he was.
Yeah, I'm a fraud, eh? As you'll find out in this interview.
Look, Robbie, I mean, we work together quite often, and we've got to know each other over the years. But for me, there's just so many interesting parts of your career, one in particular. But before I get to that particular one, I wanna go back to, I guess, the very beginning. Where you fell in love with the game of cricket. I know you were also an extremely talented hockey player, but I guess where does your love affair with the game of cricket start?
Fizz, like most kids where I grew up in Galvindale, you play all sports. When Wimbledon's on, we draw the lines in the street and you're playing tennis. When it's football, you're playing football. And when it's cricket, you're playing cricket. And then there's athletics, there's all sorts. So I was very fortunate to grow up in Galvindale, in Port Elizabeth, where we had access to all different types of sports and coaches and great coaches that made you want to be active. So my love for the game probably developed from, obviously, within the house, from your dad and your parents encouraging you. And then when you go outside, you just want to play with your mates and, playing street cricket against guys like Ashwell Prince and Elviro Peterson and all these guys that eventually became your teammates, along the way for South Africa. That was what it was like growing up in Galvindale.
I mean, you've listed some massive names. I mean, I know there is a lot of talent that has come out of Galvindale, but when you list those names, you're thinking that's world-class talent. That's the highest level, I mean, and take me through that. I guess that competition. I mean, I know I used to play street cricket in Mlazi in Durban, but I don't know. There was no one there. I can't list people. So clearly I was just bullying people there.
I think there was a strong, we did grow up partly of our lives in apartheid. So our sport was segregated growing up a little bit to a degree until I got to high school. So our communities were kept together was through sport and being active and supporting each other, being active. So I think that was how, firstly, when you have a lot of people into sport, it's going to get competitive. And when there's a lot of competition, you're going to raise your game. And I guess as the years went on, the talent sort of became more and more within the community. I mean, we're talking about guys like even Dane Clay, probably one of the most decorated footballers also from, our wood, as you would say. So there are a lot of people that have gone on to do some great things, from that community. So we were fortunate to have great coaches that kept us in the game, whether it be hockey, football, and, we appreciate all of them because they kept the sport alive, which meant we could continue to play as young people. And eventually, when we became united in our sport, we were able to represent South Africa, no matter what the sport was. Well, people have represented from all sorts, athletics to everything. So it was a great upbringing in sport where I grew up.
The one that, I always hear you telling me about your hockey prowess, and I've gone around asking people, was he really that good? And people were like, nah, he could play. Take me through that. I mean, I know they often say, I know Mike Bechet at Marisburg College used to say, cricket and hockey, it's almost like double science. It's math and science. It goes hand in hand. Was that the case for you in terms of just a duck to water?
Yeah, as far as hockey is concerned, man, I just loved hockey, man. It was great. And I think Mr. Bechet is right. I always felt when I played hockey in preseason, I had a better cricket season. So, your reflexes are so much sharper, you're fitter, you're quicker, you make better decisions because hockey is all about quick decision making. So I definitely felt that it helped my cricket. So you're spot on there.
I know you've been dabbling recently, playing a bit of Masters hockey as well. I know I'm gonna make sure that I grab those images and I put them here because you had some familiar names, but still a sport that you still enjoy and no doubt have plenty of fun with.
Yeah, I do, man. I was just looking for it's so hard to keep fit these days. So what's the best way to do it is you play a game for an hour and you run around and burn calories. So it started off as a way of getting fit, but then you actually realize that you're playing with guys that actually like your heroes growing up now.
Let's bring it back to cricket now. I mean, I guess the talent was there from a young age, and at times, when you think of talent, you think sometimes the hard work doesn't go hand in hand. What were you like as a young cricketer? Were you a guy who, I guess, relied on that natural ability, the flair?
I think it was a little bit more natural. I wouldn't say I gave a lot of thought to cricket. I just played and I would just contribute to teams. I didn't think of it as a career, in any way.
Again, I look back at that time, that early stage of your career, before you became a professional, representing, I guess, your provincial sides, your junior national teams. That growth allowed you to eventually don the green and gold of South Africa at the highest level, the proteas. I mean, speak about that pride, that you would have felt, and no doubt, I guess, becoming a hero amongst your own people, a hero amongst young South Africans.
Yeah, I did play for them at a young age. I mean, when I look back, I was nowhere near ready to play international cricket at the time. When once you retire, you reflect on all these things. Once I became a professional, that's the first time I remember actually setting proper goals as a professional when I was early in my professional career. And I always had the idea I was going to, 28, I want to play for South Africa. I found that was like sort of the right age that you go through. You get a lot of setbacks and all sorts of things to make you develop as a cricketer. Because actually you develop from your failure, not your successes. I mean, successes is fine for you between as a cricketer. It's a low success rate sport individually. So when I started playing for the Pro, I didn't have those journeys that you needed to go on. I always felt I was a little bit too young. But my failures and stuff had to come from international cricket and trial and error. We never had like a lot of spin bowling heroes in our country at the time. So we were almost like the first, like trying to, navigate the path, as you would say. And now you look at the guys coming through today, Shamsi, Keshav, George Linders, Bjorn Fortuins, Aaron Pangisos have come through. There's a lot of guys that have come through now, and it's great to see, and not only come through, performing and playing a massive role for the Proteas at the moment.
You make such an amazing point there, and it's always been a subject that really fascinates me when you speak of young cricketers coming through. And at times, like you're saying, getting picked early, you can easily lose yourself because you don't learn as much as you probably could or should if you're playing, I guess, domestic cricket. You don't miss a step in your development, I guess, as such. And as a result, even when you drop down, you know what it's like to go back up. You know what it takes to get to that higher level because you've had to work hard to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I got there, I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know what it took to be a professional, really. You know, I didn't know what it was like to prepare. You know, there's a big difference. I always tell cricketers, you prepare and you can practice. You know, preparation is fitness, setting yourself goals, you know, addressing the mental part of the game. Are you sleeping enough? Your diet. That's preparing to do well. At that age, I was just practicing, you know, just playing cricket. So there's a big difference, you know, as along the way, you're starting to learn, like, there are more facets to this thing to be successful. So maybe when I got picked, I didn't understand that. It took a lot of pain and a lot of disappointments just to sort of, you fall off the bus, you have to come up with a plan again, get back on the bus, you go on the journey, you fall off again, you come back on. That's why I said, you know, the point I made before, that you learn more from your failures in cricket. It's how you respond to those failures and the ability to come back quickly after them, I think, is and come up with a plan. You know, not kid yourself that, and just, I'm just going to put it to the back of my mind and forget about that experience. You take it, you bank it, you learn it, and you come back better. I think that's sort of the journey you feel that a lot of cricketers are probably not on at the moment. They're coming straight from under 19 into, and they basically have to learn it at high performance cricket where there's a lot more pressure and expectation, which is a little bit unfair on them in many ways, you know. They need to have, like, they're missing about 2-3 years in their development. So it's a catch-22 a little bit. But yeah, I'm a big believer in, you know, you learn from your failures, you bank it, and you move on, and you come up with a plan, more importantly.
Yeah. Fascinating subject indeed. But the one thing I want to touch on and why I've brought you here today, I don't know if you can remember the 14th of December, 2003.
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember?
What happened?
You know what's going to happen? After the break, I'll take you back there. I'll take you back.
Okay. Time machine.
Welcome back, everyone. Robin Peterson. It's a fascinating journey we've been on so far in the show. I asked him before we went to the break about the 14th of December, 2003. I don't know if the break has helped him to remember. Robbie, has the break helped you to remember?
I think it might have been a summer afternoon at the Wonders. I think that's where we're going at the moment. I have a feeling it's about that.
Look, I think it might be that. You know? Yeah, I mean, obviously history was made on that particular day. I guess I don't want to say to your detriment, you know, because like we said before the break, you know, everything has its lesson. But Brian Lara versus Robin Peterson, take me through the lead up to that over. And I guess we'll come back to what happens in that particular over.
Yeah. I remember I wasn't really expecting to bowl, to be honest. It just shows you that how naive I was playing Test cricket at the start of my journey. You know, Graeme Smith had just become captain that year. And, you know, he threw me the last over of the day. And according to how South Africans play, you're sort of tentative in the last over of the day. That wasn't the case with the West Indian goat, as they call him, Brian Lara, all around the world, where he's just decided to show this 21-year-old what Test cricket's really about. So, you know, it was you know, you look back on that over, you bowled, and you're like, you don't even know if you can bowl properly, whether you have the tools to actually combat a player like this. When I look back at that over, you think, okay, you throw it up, hit you for 1-6, that's normal. You know, you bowl a little bit flatter, then he picks length so quickly and he just runs you past the slip for 4. You know, we're talking about a genius here. And then afterwards, you know, there's no turn in the Wonders at the time. You know, it was a pretty flat surface. So any decent batsman worth your salt would really see it as an opportunity, and he did that day. He taught me a massive lesson. You bruised your ego. Sometimes it's not the figures, that hurt you. It's more the dent in the ego when you thought you were better than you were. And so that was an interesting process. I remember sitting on the field after the game, and no one really said much to me, which I found, pat on the back. I guess they didn't know what to say because they've never seen that before. The one guy I do remember actually coming to me was actually Mark Boucher, and sort of trying to console me a little. I guess he was behind the stumps, so he could see what happened. He had the best view in the house, I guess, that day. So he felt a little bit for me, but it was a good experience. I think, when I look back, like I said, I like to reflect a little bit. It was probably the moment that actually made me last a little bit. It sort of made my career a little bit in many ways. It made me realize that, hey, you got to do things a little bit differently if you want to be around for a long time. You can't be as naive. And, you have to go back to the drawing board and come up with a plan, because we still had a one-day series to play against Brian Lara. So that moment was, as much as it did dent your ego a little bit as a player, it was actually sort of the crucial element for me to be around for a long period of time at international cricket.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at how things had gone pretty much throughout that test match. South Africa batted first, he scored 500 plus, Smith got 100, Gibbs got 60 odd. It really set the tone in terms of a batting performance, and I guess what the bowlers would expect in terms of how the pitch was playing. And you look at Brian Lara's innings, he scored 202. I mean, just when you were in the field, before you even got that chance to bowl, just watching, I guess, like you said, a genius working like that. I mean, take me through that. Take me through how beautiful that was, and what you thought when you're coming up against Brian Lara at his very best.
Listen here, it's the closest you'll ever get like to genius on a cricket field. I guess there are certain players I've played with that are a little bit like that. I would probably say A.B. de Villiers. But Brian Lara was, in terms of test cricket, I mean, if you look at his numbers alone, I mean, you can't, imagine someone scoring 500 on their own. This is the level of player that you're coming up against. But he was an amazing player. It was like you just go quiet for an hour and like doesn't look like he's going to score a run. And the next hour, he just hammers boundaries left, right, and center. So he had that ability to change gears, and you think you beat him, but then, his hands always bailed him out. And that's why he was probably one of the best players of spin. I mean, you watch him get runs against Warren out of the rough, Muralitharan in Sri Lanka. He was probably the best player of spin at Test cricket at the time. Forget the Indians. Growing up in Trinidad, they do play a lot of spin bowling. So I guess he was sort of bred on spin bowling a little bit, growing up in Trinidad. But the man was a genius. Who scores 400 in a Test match? Really, that's. Some domestic teams don't even get 400 in a season. He did it on his own, this guy. He's the best player. It's quite funny, that moment, because you go a few years before, I'm standing in a queue to get the guy's autograph, and then you're playing Test cricket against him years later. So, you go as a fan and then as a participant in the Test against him. And then you have some sort of relationship down the track with all the tours you've been to the Caribbean and CPL. So, it was a nice journey to be able to take and get to know the guy. He still brings his ball out when you go to his house, because he always has like this party at the end of the CPL, because it tends to the finals tend to be in Trinidad. So he has the CPL party at the end, and he doesn't make me forget. He brings the ball out occasionally and talks about it. But hey, he's the GOAT. He's the best. He's the best batsman for sure I've played against. No, 100%. A few years later, we were actually playing a series against, could have been Australia, in Durban, and we had a team meeting, and Brian Lara was batting in Pakistan, and he just hit Danish Canary for 4 sixes in the first 4 balls. I've never seen a team room, everybody getting excited. Come on, Brian, like wanting to break my record. Unfortunately, I think he hit 26 in the over, not 28. I didn't beat the 28, but yeah, it was 28. You know, it was an expensive lesson, but a lesson I needed to be taught at the time. You know, which is you bank it, you take it, and you learn from it.
And I mean, you obviously said that at a later stage, you kind of built a relationship with a guy like Brian Lara, got to know him a little bit better. Did he say anything on the day to kind of just, cheer you up as a young man?
No, you know, when you're in competition at the time, you know, and that's another thing I needed to learn, that you're competing, you know, your friends are friends, but on the field, you're fierce, you know. That's another lesson I took from that day, is that it doesn't matter that he was nice to you off the field. You know, this is still a competitive, high performance environment, and you know, if he gets an opportunity to take you down, he'll take you down, regardless of who you are. You're going to take it easy because you're his mate, or that he's friendly with you off the field. You know, I learned that lesson. You know, but I mean, he was a great player, man. You know, no one wants to go for that amount of runs, but I'd rather let Brian Lara hit me for 28 than someone that a 2-test wonder somewhere in some obscure part of the world.
No, absolutely, Robbie. And I mean, you obviously, we've spoken about, I guess, the lessons that you learned from that particular moment. And no doubt, as a young man, it's tough to carry on your shoulders. You know, you probably walk in the streets and people still want to have a chat about it. So maybe in that moment, you want to bank it and put it away. But you used it in the right manner. And I guess looking forward, you know, in that moment, you can either go back into your shell and feel sorry for yourself, or you respond the way you did and essentially end up having a very long career playing for South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, there are two ways you can look about it. I mean, I mean, if social media was around back then, you know, who knows how I would have dealt with it. I mean, players today have a lot more. You know, if something like that happens today, I mean, it'll be every clip around the world, and before you know it, you know, half a billion people would have seen it. You know, so the world's changed a little bit as far as that regard. So, you know, the social pain element that what cricketers feel these days gets a lot more magnified because of the internet and social media. So I do feel for the players a lot more. I was lucky that didn't happen in that era. So it allowed me to process it and actually move away from it and gradually move away from it. Not forget about it, just process it and move away from it. So, yeah, you had to, man. You don't have a choice. You have to get better, you know. And it wasn't in my nature to sort of, you know, fold up and die. You know, then you know, the next time I actually bowled at him was in Durban in an ODI, and I knew that he was going to hit me, but I was preparing for that moment, you know, mentally, because I came back in the team, and actually he didn't hit me because I was actually came up with a plan, and he tried to hit me. Eventually, ran down the wicket, missed one. Okay, unfortunately, Mark, you know, couldn't hold on to the delivery to get him stumped. But you know, I learned a lesson, and I banked it, and I was better for it bowling at him the next time, the very next opportunity I got. So it was you gotta like I said, you gotta fail to learn, you know, but learn quickly is the key. I think the higher level of cricket you experience.
You've made a great point with regards to obviously how times have changed, how society has changed, and how I guess quickly people are to jump on professional, or I guess most athletes back, because in that moment, I've seen how people respond even today. In that moment, you could be cast away in terms of what people think. You know, straight away, how the hell did this guy get picked? And all of that chatter would have been. I mean, if there was Twitter and there was Instagram back then, it would have been hella tough, eh?
No, Rudolph. I mean, that's why I said I do feel for cricketers these days. Maybe that's the reason why cricketers need to. I mean, you're talking about all the mental issues in the game today. No doubt, there's a heavy burden when people experience failure and not doing the business. I mean, it comes with the territory now. I think as a player, you got to accept that. You got to accept that if you want to be around for a while, you got to have a thick skin there, you know. And if you want to be paid, like we always joke, you got to pay the big bucks. You got to deal with that type of pressures of everyone's an expert. So yeah, it's just knowing who to listen to, I think, these days as players, and not necessarily about cricket, but just being grounded, really. If you're someone that flies high with when it's going well, and you're not prepared to accept the criticism that comes with it when you're not doing well, then I think it'll be a long, long, long journey, you know, if you want to make it in cricket at the moment.
Again, when we look at, you know, I guess you go from that particular moment and then you go to highs. You know, I look at the 2011 Cricket World Cup as a moment where, you know, I felt we really saw Robin Peterson at his very best, playing his best cricket. I remember that spell against Bangladesh. I remember you being part of a South African team that won against India. Take me through, I guess, the journey from 28 off 1 over till that moment where you're like, yeah, now it's my time to shine.
Yeah, it was a long journey. I mean, it took me a long time. I mean, a few years to almost crack like what it actually means. Like, you know, where you're fit into a cricket team. You know, maybe, you know, with all the things and plans in place that coaches have to have these days, performance plans. What happens is, you know, you start to break down what how you have to plan for your career. So it's it was you know, what I do feel is I was still part of the team, but I didn't feel like I was getting enough game time. I decided I'm going to play county cricket, and playing against international players in the county circuit and performing actually also gave me confidence, and bowling a lot of overs and learning how to be a pro and playing week in, week out, and getting up to make a performance where you're not quite feeling it, because county cricket can be a little bit of a treadmill. So it is, you know, it is a little bit of a journey, but one I'm thankful of. And then the call came after, I think South Africa didn't have a great T20 World Cup, and Gerald Majola and Corey van Zyl gave me a call, and would I want to come back because, you know, there's a World Cup. So I basically had to give up a contract in the UK. I mean, I don't know, maybe I would have ended up living in the UK today, or you know, or take a chance. You know, I didn't want to freebie, was my words to them. I said, listen, I want to come and I want to compete for a position. And if I'm better than the guys that I'm competing with, I expect to at least play. So I didn't come and ask any favors from anybody. That was the one thing I actually did chat to Corey about, was just, if I'm playing better than anyone and I'm winning games and statistically I'm doing better, then at least let's have that conversation that I deserve to play ahead of whoever I'm competing with at the time. And he was happy with that, because I didn't want to come, like today, players want they want security of game time. You know, we in a high performance space, you know, compete for your place. You know, you have to at the end of the day. So that journey, playing county cricket and leaving cricket South Africa and coming back, is all part of my journey. So I came back a better player, more confident in who I was, because it wasn't about the skill, you know. It was, I got there and I was like, I'm going to do it my way now. This is almost my second turn. I'm doing it my way, and I'm going out on my terms, you know, not at the detriment of what the team's goals were, but just let me be me a little bit more than I was in the past. And it just so happened that it worked out and it's from that period on to the end of my career, it was probably the best years of my international career, more because I was comfortable with who I was as a player. And I was prepared to show that, you know, even in games. So it was great.
Robbie, it's been an amazing chat, and it's been great to hear about your story. And I guess you speak of redemption, you speak of you know, coming to the fore and doing it your way. I think a lot of young cricketers, young athletes, and just young people in general could take so many lessons from our particular chat today. And for me, you know, it's been great knowing you, working with you, and, you know, definitely wish you nothing but the best.
Thanks, Fiza, man. Thanks for the invite, and hope you stay safe up there in Joburg, and keep stretching those hammies, when you return on the hockey field, please.
Look, you didn't need to go there. You didn't need to go there.
I have to give you a little bit of social pain, huh?
No doubt, Robin Peterson. Yeah, really appreciate it once again. And yeah, stay busy, stay safe. And yeah, hopefully see you soon, Robbie.
Anytime, bro. Take care. Eh? Love to all.